Today, we'll be unlocking your inner finance bro and using code to make some money. We'll be collecting real stock data from the past 2 years and running fake trading simulations on it. Now, an important disclaimer, I know very little about finance, so don't go spending a bunch of money on a stock just because it showed some promise in our simulation. The first step is to find a source that has lots of data. There are many paid services online to get lots of stock data fast. However, I want to make this video as accessible as possible, so we'll be taking a free route. I am using the website stockanalysis.com to get a list of stocks along with some basic information. They have pages of stocks separated by market cap, so you can choose the size of the stocks you would like to look at. I'll be downloading the mid-cap stocks, but you can download any of these. Now, if you want to skip this next step, you could pay for their service and use their download button. But I'm going to write a short Python script which will download the data on this page for free. What this script is doing is reading the page and converting the information into a more useful format. We'll be using CSV files for this project since they are easy to read and write to, but they provide more structure than a simple text file. When you run the script, you may run into an error like I did. All we need to do is import a few dependencies. After that, we can open our download file and see a list of 500 stocks along with some basic stats. We have some good data now, but we're going to need a lot more information on these stocks. We need to now write a script that will download the price fluctuations for these stocks over time. I'm going to use a service called Polygon. There is both a paid version and a free version, and just like before, I'm going to use the free version. All you need to do is make an account and get an API key. I actually made 3 accounts so I could get 3 API keys. The reason is because the free version puts a limit on how quickly you can download data. But I'm going to write a script which will switch between my API keys so I can download the data faster. This is completely optional, and the script we will be writing will work even if you just have 1 API key. To start, I'm going to write 2 functions which will help us switch between these keys. Next, I'm going to define a folder to write these files to. Then, I'm going to read the CSV file we just created, which contained a list of stock symbols. We'll use the stock symbol along with the date range to request data from the API. Now I'm going to write some code to handle a few different error cases to ensure our code is robust. If you have the free version of Polygon, this will take a few hours or maybe more than a day to download. So we want to make sure we can run our code for a long time without us monitoring it. I'm also setting it up so if the program stops running, we can simply rerun it and it will pick up where it left off. Though I would recommend commenting out the previous code which gets the stock list, since the list does change over time. Once all this data downloads, we can continue to the next step. There are many things we can do with this data, but what I want to make is a stock trading simulator. This simulator will follow a simple set of rules to make trades, and then we will see how much profit it makes. To get started, we are going to define our imports and write a function to read a stock data file. Next, we are going to get a list of stocks from our stock list file. We will now iterate over them in a loop and do some calculations with the data. Then we want to put all of that data together into one file. Currently, we are only putting the stock symbol and the profit multiplier we get from our profit function. I'm going to have this function return 1 for now. Alright, let's run this code and see if there's any bugs in it. And as expected, I did a couple of things wrong, so let's clean it up. Now I'm going to run it again and have it write to the output file. Nice, now we can see each stock symbol next to its profit. Now it's time to write our profit function. I'm now writing a loop to iterate over all the data in the file. These first 3 lines get the important data from the file. We aren't going to use the timestamp, but I'm putting it here just in case you want to use it. To keep things simple, I'm going to execute a buy when the price drops by 20% from its previous peak, and execute a sell when it rises by 20% from our buy point. After this, it's pretty simple. We just need to keep track of the price when we buy and sell it. And since we want to buy and sell the same stock multiple times, we will keep a list of all the profits. When it's finished going through the data, we simply multiply all these profits together, since we will be reinvesting all of the money we earn into the next iteration. If we bought the stock but it didn't have a chance to sell, we won't be calculating the profit, since there isn't any profit. Unfortunately, it is taking much longer to execute, since we now have to comb through so much data for every stock. Though, if we open up the task manager, we can see we're only using a fraction of our computational power. Look at all these CPU cores are sitting around, not computing for us. Let's refactor this to put all of those cores to work. We will use a process pool executor on our profit function to execute it multiple times simultaneously. On the main thread, we will wait for these to finish and collect the results. We will then use the append mode on the output file so we can write it line by line. And at the start of the function, we would just create the file and write the header. Our symbol will also need to be passed through a profit function now so we can match them up correctly. When we try to run the code, we run into an error, but it isn't an import error. Python requires that we add this line at the start of our code when we use parallel processing. Now, when I run the program, you can see it's much faster now that we're using all of our CPU cores. Now that I've finished processing the data, let's take a look at the results. Wow, so it looks like our trading strategy is very profitable. Our most profitable stock actually yielded a 1 million multiplier. So if we just invested $1 and started using this strategy 2 years ago, we could be millionaires. And most of the other stocks are actually not bad either. There are just over 100 stocks which never gave a return. This means that we have unrealized losses on them. If you want to make this more accurate, you could add a way to handle this, but to keep things simple, I just stuck with outputting the realized gains and losses. Now, before you go out there and start making trades based on this data, keep in mind that this data is based on a specific market cap range of stocks, and that this is past data, which does not necessarily mean it'll be like this in the future. Also, with the unrealized losses, this could be a losing strategy in the long run. Hope you found this video useful, and maybe it will save you some money, since you can now simulate your trading ideas before actually spending any money. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.